A lot of questions have been on my mind specifically, and one of them is how can we ensure that financial advisors and planners and service professionals, all in all, build a practice that thrives and that can adapt as things change, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So in this episode, we dive into some alternative revenue streams, and as I said in a little video that I sent out this morning, you know even additional revenue streams, not necessarily alternative, because alternative sort of means like, oh, stop doing this and then do the next thing. But we don't want to do that. We probably want to look at introducing more revenue streams into our businesses. We're going to look at some of those business models and what might work and what might not work, and how we can build a more resilient future. Good morning. Warm welcome back. Here we go. Another episode 35 today. And today talking about alternative revenue streams for financial advice, businesses, practices, advisors, planners, name them. We're going to look at some ideas from that. And I also want to bring this sort of back to the business that we're building, which is obviously in the same space, a little bit different, but there are things that we have tried. We have worked with advisors and planners who have done things that worked and that didn't work. So I want to share some of those and also leave you with some other ideas today about what it is that you could possibly do, which is obviously the operative word. So we're looking forward to a great episode. Nikki is here with the latest in current affairs with the Financial Planning Institute. So looking forward to hearing what's been happening this last week, because this last week was, it's gone. Verby, missed half of it. So looking forward to see what I missed. So she's here. Then Igno is here as well, back with Change Your Angle. And today talking about watching your mother learning to walk again. So yeah, I did type to him actually this morning to say, like, you can't make me cry on the show today. But that message did not go through. So Igno, I'm just telling you, Igno is here backstage. So you're not allowed to do that. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about some tech stuff today in Quick Tech Tips. And today, talking about the big 5 mistakes that we make with technology. And this also comes from a very practical experience point of view, and also some conversations that I've had of late where I think a lot of people are struggling sort of with the same things. Some quick announcements, and of course, giving away some books today. So once again, you can win the Financial Advisor's Playbook and one of Quibus's 4 books. So we're going to do that again at the end of the show. So we'll do that lucky draw. I'll give you the hashtag a little bit later, and then we'll get into the conversation. But let me say hi this morning. It's quite humbling when you see like the amount of people online and how many people are saying hello. It's almost the same number. It's brilliant. So thank you so much. Cindy, good morning, in the house first today. Nice to see you. Terence, good morning. Welcome. Nice to see you. Harry, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Elna, goeiemôre. Lekker om jou te sien. Greg, goeiemôre. Nice to see you. Johan, good morning. Nice to see you as well. And a good evening to Mr. Kobus Klein, all the way over in the land of the long white cloud. Is it? What is it? New Zealand. There we go. Ferry, goeiemôre. Nice to see you as well. Got a lot of like Bloemfontein people here, right? Because all of us that's on the screen today lived in Bloemfontein at some point in time. So we will say that. So Johan Basson, goeiemôre. Nice to see you. Nico van Wyk, goeiemôre. Rizan, goeiemôre. Nice to see you. Jonita Moelman, goeiemôre. Jonita, hoop het gaan goed. Frank Agliotti, good morning, sir. I hope you're doing well. Congrats again, Mr. Tobin. Goes Johan. Eloise Strauss, good morning. Nice to see you. Cheryl, goeiemôre. Nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi. Rihanna, goeiemôre. Thank you for saying hi. Got Andre Steenkamp, goeiemôre, Andre. Hope it goes well. Neil Phillips, goeiemôre. Nice to see you as well. Elon Reeve Musk, hello, Earthlings. Yes, I don't think that's the real one, but we'll keep an eye. So, Carol, good morning. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for saying hi. Francis, goeiemôre. Always awesome to see you. Daisy, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Alfred, good morning, everyone, from a beautiful, beautiful Pretoria. I like that. Cindy, goeiemôre. Nice to see you as well. Marie, goeiemôre. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Adrian, goeiemôre. Nice to see you. And Cindy says that she has driven through Bloom once before. Absolutely fantastic. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, let's get the show on the road. Looking forward to a good one. Here's Nikki with the news.
Good morning, everybody. From Coolies, Johannesburg this morning. And as they said, yes, I come from Bloom initially. So maybe it is a good idea not just to drive through Bloom, but actually go and see what it looks like inside. It's not as boring as people think. So let's get going with the news. There was quite a few things that happened at the FSCA this week. Firstly, something that our financial planners, especially independent financial planners, should maybe go have a look at is that the FSCA released the notice regarding the budget and the estimates of expenditure and levies and fees proposal for next year. So the FSCA published the following documents for public consultation: an explanation for the budget, estimates of expenditure and fees and levies proposals, which is obviously important for the financial sector, for the FSPs, and of the variation of the budget, and so on and so forth. So it is available on the FSCA's website. There is some time to comment on it. So go have a look if this is going to affect you. Then there is quite a bit of work that the FSCA is currently doing in warning the industry, but also the consumers at large about impersonators, but also providers. I don't even want to call them providers out there that are providing financial services that are not necessarily licensed. And this week there were two warnings that came through again. I see the FSCA is calling it Warning Wednesdays on LinkedIn, and it actually works quite well because it's quite catchy. So they have learned that the impersonators are using HF Markets company registration number on its website. Now, HF Markets is an existing FSP that is licensed, but the impersonators are conducting their activities through Elite Wealth Consultants, Titans Trade, and lucrative XFTM Trade. So that's quite a long name. So from the FPI, what we would suggest to our members and everybody who's are FSPs and representatives is maybe just from time to time search your FSP number, search your name, do some internet searches, and make sure that there's nobody out there that is impersonating you, because this is happening more and more and more, where they work on an existing FSP that is licensed to do the right thing and then impersonate themselves as that. And then secondly, it has also come to the attention of the FSCA that soulless markets may be performing financial services to members of the public without being authorized to do so. Now, soulless markets claim to be powered by Eclavia Asset Management, once again claiming to be an authorized financial services provider, but it's not. And they are a trading platform that they utilize, and people are supposed to be looking out for that because they are not registered. Then the FIS Ombud released his report this year, and I thought I would just share some very interesting stats with you. The FIS Ombud Office received 4,501 complaints within its jurisdiction last year and resolved 5,046 cases for the year. In 35% of the resolved cases, an award was made or a settlement was reached, and 39.5 million in compensation was awarded to the consumers. Now, it's quite a hefty report, but it's very interesting. So if you go and read it, you will see that if you look at the product categories of the complaints that were received, long-term insurance made up 58% of those complaints, but it's mainly funeral policy related. Short-term insurance is then another 11%. Investments are about 10%, and then the rest is retirement, forex, cryptocurrency, and those type of things. But those are very small numbers. Then if you also look at why the people complained, is about 27% is about non-payment of claims. 18.89, so about 19% complained about fraudulent or unauthorized policies, about another 11% about financial services provided, 11% about advice-related complaints, and then the rest goes on from there. So it's actually really a very interesting report to read. Go have a look at it. It also teaches you quite a bit on maybe what not to do. Then just one last comment. You know that it was the midterm budget this week, and some good news that we have received is that there is a positive review from the Financial Action Task Force on the SA's progress in addressing deficiencies in its ability to combat financial crimes, and hopefully by February we should be very close to being off the grey list. So holding thumbs there. There are only 6 outstanding items to be addressed, and the last scheduled reporting cycle is in Feb. Then just a last comment from FPI. We have got one more masterclass that will be available by the 27th of November, or actually on the 27th of November. This is focused on ethics and AI. So if you still need some ethics hours to complete your CPD for this specific cycle, it really is going to be a very good masterclass. We are bringing in people not just to speak about ethics, but also about how ethical AI is going to work in future. So that is my story. Thank you, Francois, and thank you, everybody. Let's keep a close eye on what's happening in the American election next week. It proves to be very close and very interesting, and is going to affect the entire world, obviously. So have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Appreciate that. Yes, it's scary. Just, like always, it blows my mind when you try and do something good and you do it the right way, and then there's always other people go like, how can I take this and misuse it? Like, it irritates me, to be honest. Anyway, thank you so much. Be vigilant. Go check whether you can find anything about you or your business anywhere else on the internet that you might not even be aware of. And on that note, then here is Igno with Change Your Angle. And as I said today, he's going to be talking about watching your mother learning to walk again.
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a marvelous 1st of November. So my mother's birthday was usually on the 21st of October. And when I thought about today, and I would like you to change your angle a bit and consider the generations. Francois, Nikki, and I had a conversation this morning about our generation, or mainly our generation, which is Generation X in many instances. Some of you attending, and I'd like for you to just maybe say in the chat what generation you are in, Generation Z, or personally, I think people like Francois, who does a lot of technology and he's still playful, is in a perennial generation. He's all over the place, and I also like to play there. But my mother's generation, my dad's generation, when I was a child, they seemed to have all the answers. Now, obviously, there weren't these cell phones and stuff. We could not access the internet. So I thought they had the wisdom, but I saw their own vulnerabilities a few times. And I want to talk about one thing, which was a certainty my mother had, which turned out wasn't. But just taking you back a bit, I was at school, and one day we were driving to the doctors, and I asked my dad, why are we going there? Sometimes you just attention deficit, and you're going there, and you're just going to town with them. We stayed on a small farm. And he said, no, my mother had cancer. And the moment that word drops, it's always the scary thing. Now, this was a time of National Hospital. We would drive from Bethlehem to Bloemfontein. And the initial cancer was one thing, and then she started getting all those medications, and the chemotherapy, and we would drive through to Bloemfontein, and I became a student at that time. So I would drive her to Bloemfontein, and she'd stay with myself and my brother, and then go back to after the hospital, then be very, very sick of the chemotherapy. So that's a long story, but what fascinated me was her power, her commitment to live, because she wanted to see her children through their lives. And I think all mothers are like that. I still got the letters which she wrote me when I was in the army, and it was letters about the dogs at home. It was letters about the milk, the milking of the cows, literally. So these are the things that matter to mothers. And then the cancer got worse, and I'll never forget the one day we were at National Hospital in Bloemfontein. My sister and I walked out. My mother had been hurting very much, and then we saw the doctor, and we went over to the doctor, and we said, so when will she walk again? And he looked at us. He says, your mother will never walk again. And it's like that bomb dropping that you realize what's happening here. Anyway, we went back. She had lots of pain because the bones in her legs had become so brittle. And that's why the doctor said she would not walk again. And then I'll never forget, she had a little cap because she'd lost all her hair. It was a cap which I got from one of the holidays I'd gone on to, and we called her Francie Geringer. Now, you'll give your generation away if you remember Francie Geringer, who was in the U magazine or the Huisgenoot all the time because he had this disease which made him look very old when he was still young. And we called that the Francie Geringer cap because he also had no hair and he also always wore a cap. And then so it was fun and funny sometimes, but she always sat in the sitting room. She did not want to lay in bed. She came in with us and she would read her little book, Faith for Daily Living. But she had a secret. So during the mornings when we were doing our stuff and I'd gone back to the university or whatever had happened, she would practice with one of the ladies who worked at the house, or the lady who worked at the house. And then one night she called us and she wanted to show us something. And here she was, taking that walking ring and walking 1, 2, 3 steps. Now remember, this is the mother who taught me how to walk. And here we were as a family cheering her for taking 3 steps, for walking. And this is, it was just so magnificent because she'd stuck to her faith, and she believed. But there was one belief which she had, and this is the point I'd like to make today, is she believed that when she died, everything would be okay for us because she had this old FBOP policy. And I later heard from my brothers that, she called me in once and then once spoke to one of my brothers. Eventually, she'd spoken to my sister and my 2 brothers and my dad, obviously, about the fact that she was approaching death and the policy would take care of it. And then, she passed away, and my dad took the policy to FBOP, and they told her that it's not even going to pay for half a coffin. And that broke my dad because it wasn't as if he was rich, but the fact that his wife had believed in this company, in these people. And then, obviously, it wasn't the company's fault, but there was never a follow-up. There was never someone who checked in what was the policy's worth because of inflation, because of all those things which we all know. So I want to share with you today this story because before you go on holiday this year, if you're a financial advisor, I beg you, go out to your people and check that they are covered sufficiently. I know people say we don't have the cash, we don't have the money for the premiums, all those kinds of things. But the letdown, if you don't know, at least if they know that they're not covered sufficiently, they won't talk to their children as if they are. But it's our obligation as an industry to make sure that people who don't understand and don't know understand what's happening, like my mother did. Until today, I still love her dearly. And every time I think of her, I think of the lovely things. But somehow, sometimes I think it's such a pity that she was cheated by the system. And the system's not even aware of it. There was no financial advisor at the time whom I could say was the person responsible, because it's our own responsibility as clients. I know, I understand. But let's take co-responsibility and let's make a difference. And yes, I see lots of you Gen X, Trumpy generation, baby boomers, all kinds of generations. No matter what, we all in this game of life together. Have a lovely, lovely super weekend and make time to check in on whether you, your clients, your family are sufficiently covered. Take care.
Thank you very much, Igno. Really appreciate that. Such an important message. There was another conversation I had during the week where also what could people focus on in the run up to the festive season? And I think this is such an apt message today. So thank you very much, Igno. Righty, next up, a quick tech tip. Well, not a tip. It's more maybe just awareness. When it comes to technology, there's definitely a couple of mistakes that we keep making over and over and over again. And there's lots of reasons for it. Mainly because many of us are not interested. Mainly because many of us feel like this is just beyond our skill set and that we're too old and all of those good things. Now, if you are 60 years old or younger today, I do want to just pose this to you, because 60 is the new 45 in my opinion, but you were 30 years old when the internet came around. PCs existed, laptops existed. When I started as a broker consultant many years ago, I had a laptop. I mean, it was the most magnificent thing. That was in the 90s. Okay, there's no more excuse for us if we're 60 to say, it's before computers, it's this or this is that. Like, it's all a mindset thing, right? So that's a bonus problem already that I'm starting with. But let's park that for a moment. I think the biggest mistake that we make is that, and I said this on a masterclass earlier this week as well, that we do not start with the problem that needs solving. We are not clear on what problem are we trying to solve. The amount of times that I have a conversation with people asking me about CRMs and those kinds of things, my first question always is about, but what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, what is the problem here? It's not that the CRM you're using isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, or that it's slow, or that it's old, or that it doesn't have the functionality. It's not that. It's that we are not clear on the problem. And to figure out what that problem is, you're not going to read up on it. Like, you've got to go back into your business and have a look at where are things, or where are bottlenecks? Where do you find like there's a lot of manual effort going into things? Those kinds of problems. That's the first thing that you need to know. Is there a problem where clients keep on asking for information and you and your team needs to run around to get that information collated, get it into a format and provide it to the client, and that's really costing you a lot of time and there's a lot of mistakes and things happening? And that's a massive problem to have. So the first one is that we're not starting with the problem. You have to start, anything you do in your business for that matter needs to start with the problem. And then how do you solve that problem? So that's the big mistake, number one of the big five. The second one is not reviewing your tech stack. So you've been using the same pieces of technology and you've added to it and added to it and added to it over the years. And it is what it is, right? And suddenly you find that your bill is a massive amount. You pay a lot of money to your tech, like I do. And you just like at some point get like, whoa, this has now become a massive cost. Recently had a conversation with somebody who said like it's almost as getting close to his salary bill, so it's really a significant portion of that. However, that said, I do believe that if you have the right technology that solves a very specific problem, and that's the cost that it takes, you are probably saving to employ another 2-3 people. And there might be people saying that, yeah, but how much isn't it better to rather create jobs? Yes, it is. But you're also ultimately running a business, right? So if the business doesn't survive, if the business doesn't do well, if the business is not profitable, if the business is not sustainable, you ain't helping nobody. So that's a very important part. And if I say you, I include myself in that absolutely as well. So not reviewing your tech stack as it is, that's a mistake. So I, twice a year, sit down, going through that process now again, where I look at every single piece. We've actually got separate accounts for that in our accounting system. So I can see every single piece of software that I use and exactly what the cost is, specifically because we pay for 95% of the things we've got, we pay in US dollars. So that means that the cost fluctuates on a monthly basis, depending on the exchange rate. So I can see that. I then go, do I use it? How much do I use it? Who else in the team uses it? So that's the first part. So is it something that's solving a problem and that we actively use? So that's important. The second part to reviewing your tech stack is obviously the licenses as well, so that you don't have unnecessary license. I saw this lots of times before, particularly in a little bit bigger businesses. You used to have 4 licenses because it was you and 3 admin people. 1 admin person leaves, but you forget to cancel that license. So you still pay that license. So things like that, or even being on the wrong type of license, because most of these softwares have got specific levels of licenses. So are you on the appropriate level? Aren't you paying for something that you don't need all that functionality for? You maybe just need a little bit. So that's the second one, right? So first one, not starting with the problem. You got to go into your business, look at it, define the problem, identify the problem, think about that problem, discuss that problem, and then say, okay, so how can we solve this? And can we solve this with technology? Second one, not reviewing your tech stack that you've got. The third one is listening to others. So your peers, other financial advisors, people like me, listening to us without doing your own homework. And this is part of doing your homework. I completely get that. But often we are a little bit lazy, and I love you all dearly, but we're all sometimes a little bit lazy and pressed for time and all those good things. And then we don't do our own homework. If 3 people says this particular system is fantastic, then how can 3 people be wrong? Let me do that as well. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you've got a completely different business. You've got a completely different client base, and you've got a completely different problem that you're trying to solve. And now the system doesn't work. So that's definitely the third one. The second one, and I've seen it recently. I see it all the time. I know it. It's a frustrating thing. I can tell you many examples of people who have done this and who have gotten incredible results from that same software that other people say is the worst thing under the sun. And that is not doing training. Yourself, your staff, nobody takes the time to really we just want to dive in. It's almost like buying a new car. You get in the car, okay, at least I know where the petrol is and where to switch it on and let's go. And you don't use 90% of the things that car offers you. It's the same thing with technology. So we don't do the training. We don't make sure that we get to know this because we have other more important things to do. Okay, because this is frustrating, right? You've got to stretch the brain now. But that's a massive, massive mistake. But it doesn't end at training. So the fifth thing that we don't do is that us as business owners do not drive, very importantly, we do not drive adoption of the technology. So there's no choice here. Like if the business decides to implement a piece of software, then everybody will use the software. Everybody will get trained. Everybody will use it. That's it. When you implement a client portal, you can't make your clients do it. But I can promise you this, that your clients also not going to do it by themselves. Oh, here's your login. Oh, go and register here. Small percentage, 5%, if you're lucky, will go and register to use that. For the rest of them, probably going to have to sit with them, take them through the process, show them, explain to them, training and adoption. So it's not only you and your staff, it's also with your clients. From that point of view. So those are the 5 big mistakes. There's more mistakes. I've got a long list of mistakes, but let me just recap that very quickly. So 1, not starting with the problem. 2, not reviewing your tech stack regularly, at least twice a year. Listening to others without doing your own homework is the third one. They're not doing training and not driving adoption. So good luck. I hope that helps. And share your thoughts in the comments. Alrighty, so let's do a couple of quick announcements. So next week, Tuesday, the 5th of November, we have Ascend, which is our annual summit. Really looking forward to a fantastic event. We've got some of the best speakers and interesting topics on the planet on that session. It's only from 8:45 in the morning until 1:15. It's really like you can get it for less than, you can join us for less than 500 Rand. Come and join. We've just been approved for 3.5 CPD points. So you'll get 3 general points and a half technical point. We are going to be talking about a lot of marketing. So 2 of the sessions focuses heavily on marketing. So 2 of the sessions very much so on client experience and client engagement as well. And we also look at the profession a little bit through what happens beyond your CFP certification and all of that kind of stuff. So really looking forward to that. We've got Rob McDonald is going to talk about financial well-being. We have Guy Holwell who's going to talk about that client experience or customer experience is the new marketing. We have Razan talking about marketing today. So looking forward to that as well. As I said before, the biggest aspect of people's businesses, according to the scorecard that people have completed, by far is marketing. It's really tough in today's environment, and we're going to give you as much value as we possibly can. Then we also have Sharon Moller, who's a coach at Old Mutual Wealth. So she's going to talk about what you can do beyond the CFP certification and the value that brings. Then we've got 2 incredible panel discussions, and everything is just half an hour. So it's a quick, nice thing. We've got sufficient breaks in between. It's going to be a lekker morning, so you have to sound like Bertus Basson now, but you should join us for that. The 2 panels, we just finished the prep this week. So we have Brian Foster, we've got Brian Nichols, so the 2 Brians, and we've got Georgina Smith, and I will be moderating the session on lifestyle financial planning versus financial advice. So it's going to be an interesting one. I'm really going to be pushing some buttons. So I'm looking forward to that. Then also we have Russell Ho. So those of you that Russell is here, I think I saw Russell sneak in a little bit earlier. So Russell, we've got Johan Vossler, we have Benny Gous. You all know Benny Gous. And then obviously the magnificent Grant Nell being the moderator for the session on hybrid advisory model. So how do we marry this amazing world of online and offline? And where do you online and where do you offline? And Russell has just gone through a process of really over the last 6 months building a hybrid offering to his clients. So looking forward to hear a lot more about that. So on both panels, practicing financial planners and advisors, and also obviously some people asking some really good and tough questions. So looking forward to that. You can still book your tickets. Our members attend for free. So if you're a member, please go onto the platform and go and book your seat. Otherwise, go and book your ticket, 476 Rand. If you use the code, there's a code which we've sent out multiple times. If you don't have the code, let me know. I'll send it to you, and you can join us then on that. There will be recordings, so you can watch it for 2 weeks after and still earn your CPD. So there's no excuse, right? I know it's busy. I know all these things, but these are things that we carefully crafted and that you need to hear and know about. So come and join us for Ascend. Right, and then also we did the masterclass on Tuesday, which was phenomenal. We really enjoyed it. If you joined us, thank you so much. Please let us know in the chat whether you were there or not. But we spoke about unlocking new value streams, specifically through using things like TaxSpace and Gravitas Tax and ComSpace. So we did it together, and it was really a very interesting case study based real examples that we did. That recording is now available on our website. So when you go on to propulsion.co.za, you will see that there's a link that says masterclass, and then under that you will find that recording. So you're welcome to go and watch that for free. And then lastly, just if you haven't yet gotten the Financial Advisors Playbook, please, there you go. It's available on Takealot. Go and get it. If you want the digital version, it's on Amazon. Just go and search for it. The Financial Advisors Playbook, an incredible book. I'm not going to talk too much about it today. What I do want to do just briefly is give you the hashtag before we get into today's show. Today's hashtag is #propulsion, which is very apt, I think, at this point in time. So if you want to be included in the draw at the end of today's show, #propulsion, and you will then automatically go into the draw at the end of the show. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. If you haven't subscribed yet, we're on 1,610 subscribers. Like, I don't know what to do to get that up, apart from asking. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet and you do find value, please do that. Also, please help us share the show. Talk about the show with us on social media. Let other people know. We're really keen. And if you've got any ideas, feedback, suggestions, whatever, please send it to me. I will be very happy. You can comment it in the show. You can do it in the comments. You can send me a WhatsApp, email, whatever works. But I really appreciate that. So please, if you like today's episode, hit that thumbs up. It's just a little thumbs up. You can do it on your TV, you can do it on your laptop, on your phone, wherever. I really appreciate that. Alrighty, so that enough about that. Ladies and gents, here we are with today's episode. I think in today's world where they move fast, things move fast and things change all the time, that we definitely need to think about the way that we build the revenue streams in our businesses, right? And there's quite a number of things that we need to consider when doing that. Now, let me start off by saying that you can't do this if you're not intentional. Revenue streams will happen organically by themselves, but that's what it will be. It might be not something that you wanted. It might be that there's a lot more risk in your revenue than you want there to be. So it's really important that you have a plan, right? You've got to think about these things and really go and look and think about this. So there will be value today for people who are new and people who are just starting out, for example. But I think where most value will come from is if you have an existing client base already, whether it's 50 clients, 100 clients, 200 clients, where you can really go and look through where are the opportunities to maybe offer some of these services, offer some of these alternatives to how people want to do business with you, etc. But the main premise I want to start off with today is to say that you definitely want to be intentional. You need a plan. So let me give you an idea. So in PROpulsion, as many of you know, like we are an education-based business, right? So we do a lot of education for financial advisors and planners at various different levels and various different formats and ways, etc. But we are very intentional. One of the slides that we have in our business plan that we review every single year, is this still what we want to do? Is this still contributing to that? Like, what are we doing? So where do we need to focus? All of those decisions come from the fact that there are two types of revenue that we're building in PROpulsion. On the one hand, we have recurring revenue. We want to build as much recurring revenue as possible, not passive. Don't confuse passive here. I'm not investing money into somewhere and I'm getting dividends. That's not what we're doing. What we are doing is we are saying that there's things that are recurring. So be it the PROpulsion community, be it the events that we have on an annual basis, but there's things that we do that recurs and that we know will generate revenue every single year. But I don't necessarily need to go and go look for new people, new clients, for example. So we can generate that recurring revenue from the same clients, and we obviously want to build out that base. On the other hand, though, because this takes time, on the other hand, we are doing a lot of once-off revenue things. And funny enough, some of the things we do on the end that does once-off revenue eventually can translate into recurring revenue. So that's also a very interesting concept. But there are things that will generate revenue in the short term. And for me, once-off revenue is a short-term thing. So we obviously need to pay bills. We need to grow the business. We need to invest. We need to hire people, all of those kinds. So we need money now. We can't wait for one day to have money. But over time, we want to move that money into more of a recurring thing so that it's more predictable. We can do the things that we do and we can grow more organically instead of, being a bit more aggressive on that end to acquire clients. So does that sound familiar, right? It's very much what you are doing probably. And naturally, you will move more into the world of recurring, but it's the level of risk that is involved in that. What are the chances that could fall away? Or what are the chances that you have to pay back that money? So all recurring revenues are not created equally. So anyway, so that's basically a very long intro to what I want to talk about today. Some of the things that we're looking to achieve through looking at alternative or additional sort of revenue streams is to make sure that you can have financial stability in your business or your practice. That's important. The other thing is, believe it or not, this can very much deepen client relationships as well. And obviously, when markets change and move, etc., it can make you a bit more resilient against that. Nothing is without risk. Let me also put that out there. We're not completely eliminating risk through this process. So why do you want to think about diversifying your revenue streams? It's not because you watch the video on YouTube and they go like, oh, 9 passive streams of income that everybody should build. Like, that's not what it is about. What it is about, that clients' expectations are changing, client demands are changing. Now, this is very much predicated on the market that you work in, right? You're probably going to hear a lot more about this from Brian Foster as well on Tuesday. But it is important. You've got to think about, who am I working with? Because if you think that you're going to introduce a different model when those clients do not have the ability to go into that model or to pay for that model in that way that you want them to pay, then you're beating a drum that nobody's going to hear. So you've got to be cognizant of the environment that you find yourself in, and nothing stops you from changing that environment as well. So very important. But that's it. I think what's very important here is that if we do that, you want to move with, and I want to say with trends, because trends for me is like fashion, right? Today it works, tomorrow it doesn't work, and we have something new, and that's not the idea. But maybe trends from a point of view is that where clients are moving to, or you think about a younger client base that's got, Igno was talking about the generations this morning, but it's got a different view on life. It's got a different set of goals and ambitions and things, and they view the world in a very different way. So they might not be open to doing the things that their moms and dads did before, and now they used to pay for financial advice. You also have to think about this from a succession point of view. How are you making your business so attractive that when somebody takes it over from you, in the real sense of the word, if they purchase your business and there's a proper succession, a proper handover, and it's like a going concern, and they go into a new growth phase with their business, that it's as valuable and as sticky as possible, because that's how you're going to unlock value. So there are many, many reasons why you would want to focus on this, right? So let's look at some key alternative revenue streams from, if I might put it that way. Now, there's more. I've got a whole list of things, but I think I'm going to look at some of these things, and some of them you'll say, but Francois, that's not what we do. Francois, this is not for me, and that's perfectly fine. But all I want to ask you is that don't say that until you have really looked at it, you've really considered it, you've spoken to clients to find out whether this would be something that they would be interested in. If you've got a specific market that you want to go into, how much do you know about them? How do they prefer? What would they prefer from these things, maybe? So very important. There's one massive lesson that I learned very recently. And when this person said it, I was like, holy smokes, 100%. It makes so much sense. How did I not figure this out myself in the last 20 years? I don't know. So I'll share that in a moment. But first one, obviously, the obvious thing that comes to mind when you think, how can I introduce a recurring revenue stream? It's obviously subscription-based services, right? So this is a little bit more difficult, I think, but there are advisors and planners who are really doing this well, and they've started doing this. So instead of looking at assets under management, they would look at they would rather look at the clients under advice and look at their income and charge them a percentage of their income for an ongoing service from that point of view. So that is definitely a way when somebody don't have money to invest, or they start that tax-free savings account and you get your R5.20 every single month. It's not worth it, but maybe if you were charging them 1% of their income on a monthly basis, that might work. And the beauty about, if you charge 1% on a monthly basis on a fixed amount, that becomes 12% over the year. In fact, it becomes more than 12% a year. But when you charge 1% of the income of the monthly income, you get that stays 1% of the income for the entire year. So that's just a number, right? So you need to understand the cost of your service and all of that good stuff before you can come up with pricing. But subscription-based services, and you can even go as far as saying, well, it's a monthly thing, it's an annual thing, but there has to be a defined set of services that you get for the specific amount. And you can also have different levels of things that you can do. And nowhere does a product need to feature in that. Again, something that Brian's going to say, probably because I'm going to ask him this on Tuesday. He's got a very specific view around what's regulated and what's not regulated. So very interesting. So when we look at alternative revenue streams, you probably want to be looking at the things that are not regulated. So very important. The other thing is and I did this when I was in practice the last year before I decided to sell my practice, and it was at the same time when we were already starting to run this business that we did standalone financial planning. So these are people, they don't need anything. This is once-off stuff. There's no relationship there. The idea is not to build a long-term relationship, but if you have capacity, you could say, you know what, you do your own thing, but you like somebody to rubber stamp what it is that you do. Then you can come, but for financial planning. Okay, so not financial advice. So we're not saying get that product, get this, but all we'll do is we'll do the calculations for you. Other than that, you must not figure out what you want to do. So that could be an additional revenue stream. But these are things that you know. So you're probably going like, Francois, but come on, man, I know this. Yes, you know this. There's something else that I want to share with you. Some simple stuff, right? And this was one of the things that I shared on the show, on the masterclass on Tuesday, is that there are certain software that you can use in order to perform an analysis that is of extreme value to a client and that you can charge for. Often we look at things like F&A tools, and we look at financial planning tools and cash flow planning tools and things like TaxSpace as that's just a tool that I use to do my job, and then you hope that somewhere somebody implements something. But yet you forget that in itself is a valuable service. If we are able to show people certain things that they did not know before in a way that looks pretty cool, then they might be willing to pay for that. So again, some of those softwares can support you in the standalone financial planning, but something like TaxSpace specifically, if you just analyze, that's not the only thing we use it for. But if you just analyze people's ITA 34s and say, let's just have a look. Look, I can't promise you that there's something we can do, but we can do a proper analysis and give you some insights from that. And it's going to cost you 500 Rand, 1,000 Rand, 4,000 Rand, whatever you want to charge for it. I mean, suddenly you do 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of those things a month. That's a nice additional income stream that you can build from that. And it takes you 5 minutes to do. And it generates a report that you can then add a few notes to and send it to clients. So we got to start thinking about these kinds of things, like what technology tools are you using that's creating some phenomenal output and valuable output and insights that you can then use to help clients with, and you can sell that to them. Stop doing these things for free. So that in itself is already a very simple thing to do. Now, the next one is probably going to be a bit of a, you're going to go like, Francois, this is where you're now stepping outside the lines of what we do as financial advisors and financial planners. Okay, but that's my job, right? So here's what I learned the other day. I was in a mentoring session, and we were talking about, and it's not the first time, Wouter Snyman, those of you that know Wouter, many years ago, well, about 5 years ago, it was before COVID, I met with him for coffee, and we were talking, and he actually said to me, you know what, Francois, you get two kinds of sort of things, right? You either have a pain pill, right, or you have a vitamin. And obviously the pain pill is something that's going to sort out a problem that's now, and just think about when you have a headache. You're not going to wait. You want to drink vitamins until your headache gets better. You want that pill that solves that problem right now, versus a vitamin is good for you over the long term, but whether you do it now or you do it later, it's not so much of a thing. So there's a big difference in urgency there. And it feels to me like very few people, you and I might see what we do with financial planning as a massive problem that needs to be addressed right now. Clients don't view it that way in my experience. They view it more like a vitamin, probably. And that's the thing that dawned on me, because I was thinking about my business. My business is also like a vitamin business, right? I should call myself USN or something. You do things that are good for people over the long run, but very few of the things we do solves an immediate problem. This is like you get better over time, but it doesn't keep you from doing the work right now. If you were somebody who at the end of your supervision and you still don't have your qualification, and we have a way for you to do your qualification, then probably that's a pain that's worth solving for you. But for 99.9% of people, that's not even an issue today. So what am I trying to say here? This is what I said in that session, is that for a pain pill, right, there's action. and you can advertise and you can market and you can do all those kinds of things. But when you have a vitamin business, right, where we do financial planning for clients over a period of time, because remember, holistic financial advice is a journey, right? It's not a once-off event or an event that I do every single time. Holistic advice happens over a long period of time. It's a journey. So for me, that's a vitamin. We make things better for you over time. Now, here's the thing that dropped in that session is that if you have a vitamin business, the way you sell is vastly different, from the way that you sell when it's a paint pill. What am I talking about? Education. So you've got to educate clients so that they can understand why it is in their interest and their best interest to do things now and not wait. So with that in mind, do you have your own digital products? Because again, I think the problem that we have is that we often think that we've got to do these things for free, that whatever we create, whatever we put out, we do it for free because we want clients to eventually do business with us. That is a model, absolutely. But I think you should also have a bit more of a funnel that you take people through. So there can be some free stuff so that they can get to know that you even exist and that there is a problem. Because the problem you have is that a lot of people think that they don't have a problem. They don't know that they have a problem, and they don't even know that someone like you exists and that you solve problems like that. So that's the person who doesn't know what they don't know, and it's all fine. On the other hand, on the other extreme to that journey, you have somebody who knows acutely that they have a massive problem. They know that you are the person to help them solve this problem. It's a perfect fit. All they need to know is what is my next step? And then everything else that happens in between, right? So we got to think about it from that point of view as well. Dave Ramsey is always a good example for me because, like, obviously you can't train people on a daily basis. So they have their own stuff that people can go through in their own time, and you pay for that. I can't remember if it was $99 or $120 or something a year that you pay to go through that. And once you've gone through that, there's things that happens off the back of that. So from a digital product point of view, do you have your own courses, trainings, videos, content, blogs, podcasts, those kinds of things? I know Bronwyn and Craig does phenomenal work with their podcast. I don't remember what it's called now. I don't know if either one of them is here, please post your podcast in the chat. But it's phenomenal what they do, and I think they've started also going down this road, or Bronwyn at the very least has. So it's really interesting that if you can do that, have you written your own little book that you just give away for free? It could be part of that thing, but digital products, because those things can lead to additional revenue streams. We don't think about these things usually. We're so used to what we are doing from that point of view. Obviously, digital products, just as a closing note on that, has the ability and the potential to reach a very wide audience, right? Because you're not limited to where that can go. And that's where the additional revenue streams, you can have somebody that sits on the other side of the world do this, depending on how you market it and how you get it out there. You never have to do any other business with them, right? But this is what you could do. So we need to start thinking about this. What if you take a specific part of your client base that you have a very good understanding for, and instead of trying to advise them one-on-one, you put together a seminar for them and you take them through a process to go and do certain things? I mean, there's lots of value there, and that's additional revenue. It's something that's replicable, is that the right word? That you can do over and over again, and you can scale it to some degree, right? I would do those things in person. So you can scale it to a certain degree, but it does take 2 days of your time or a day of your time or however long you do it for. But the value that you generate from that is extremely high. So so think about those things, right? So then also another big one, which is the next one, which I don't think we think about enough. And I'm certainly guilty of, I get offers, but I refuse them. So my wife often fights with me. Why do you do that? You are stupid, Francois. But and I am, but it's because of personal convictions that I don't do this, but I should. So if we really think about referral fees, I mean, how often do you pay people a referral fee for referring somebody to you? But do you have agreements in place with accountants and tax practitioners and lawyers and home loan people, and so on and so forth, where you refer clients to them and they then pay you a percentage of their income, commissions, fees, whatever it may be. The problem with that is because one of the things we've seen is like you get a lot of people who go into a let's work together point of view, or an agreement arrangement, and then because money doesn't flow, nobody does anything. Everybody just continues with what it is that they're doing. So it's not as great as it should be. I just had a conversation now with somebody said, yeah, we not now, like yesterday, where they have certain things in place, but everybody actually has their own business, and when there's a need, they might use and refer, but there's no intention, right? So again, what is the intention? So if you want to build any of these things in, whether it's subscription fees, standalone financial planning, things that has got nothing to do with what you do already, because what you don't want to do is necessarily replace what you're already doing. Like that for me is like, unless the thing you're doing is really, there's a lot of risk in there, then it makes sense to replace it with something else. But if you're okay with the risk, you're okay with the flows, you're okay with everything that's happening, then you definitely want to look at, but can't we unlock additional value here? And look, it might mean that you need additional people. It might mean that you need additional systems. So there will be investment required. You can't generate more income necessarily. Sometimes you can a little bit, but at some point you're going to have to invest into that process, because otherwise you are not going to unlock more revenue. So those are some of the ideas for alternative revenue streams. But I guess the big question is, yes, but how do I implement this? How do I get started with this? Because that's obviously very important as well. I think a big thing is that you need to understand, what is it that you enjoy? What is it that you are almost naturally good at? What are the things that brings you joy? And most importantly in business, what are the things that gives you energy? And you actually have to ask that question of every single person in your team, so that you know what that is. And then from there, you can decide, right, so this is what we're doing. Go and write out. So I've written here everything that we do. And you start breaking it down. And what is the ideal picture that you want to get to eventually? And now you can say, oh, I can build a bridge from here to there. This is what we need to do more of here. There's something new that we can see if we can incorporate that. So that's the starting point. So just assessing your strengths and assessing whether there is any opportunities. Maybe there's no opportunities. And then you need to say, okay, where can I go and find opportunities? So that would be the next thing. But the one thing I can promise you is that if you don't do this intentionally, if you don't take action, if you don't make time for this, it ain't happening. I can promise you that. Then also, you've got to be just careful about compliance and regulatory sort of requirements, and that you make sure that you align with those. Just always keep that in mind as well. If there's anything you're unsure of, talk to your professional body, talk to your compliance officers, and make sure that you're not on the wrong side where you think, oh, this makes sense, and then before you know it, you're on Warning Wednesday. So we don't want that. And then obviously the other part is like, once you've started to get this together, because there's more to this, right? I can do a whole series on this. But once you've get everything together, then you obviously need to tell people about it, right? Because we're creating new value here. There's a new value proposition, and there's a different way of paying for it. So now we need to go and tell people about it. So the marketing and the outreach and so creating awareness around this is going to be crucial. So very, very important from that point of view. So those are just 3 practical steps. I don't want to overcomplicate it. I think there is definitely more to it, but those are that. So really important that you look at what other opportunities exist to create revenue from your existing client base. Are there other markets that you can enter if you come up with new revenue models? But specifically, because the one thing, this is not about creating new revenue models necessarily, it's also about creating value and then a revenue model that supports that value. Very important. Don't confuse the two. So from that point of view. So I'm really keen to see what you think. Are there any ideas? Are there any things that you were wondering about? Let us know in the chat. And thank you very much for watching. Next up, the draw. Alrighty, fantastic. So there we go. So hashtag PROpulsion if you haven't yet. So there's 26 people if my eyes are not deceiving me. It's very small here on my screen, but we've got 26 people in the draw. Yep, absolutely 26. And we are going to do the draw. The first draw is going to be for the Financial Advisors Playbook. It's a book written by 14 professionals, and it's an incredible. We're getting some fantastic feedback on this. It is available on Takealot if you don't want to wait or take your chances. So let's see who our first winner is. Right, I've got the applause ready. We will see who is our winner today. Let's see. Cindy, there you go. Cindy, I know Cindy, you recently won Cobus's book roll. I say recently, that's quite a while back. So big congratulations. There's the Financial Advisor Playbook. So I'll be sending you a link so that you can have a choice. Do you want to come and drink coffee, or do you want me to send it to you? Righty, next up, here's one of Cobus's 4 books. So you can choose which one. We'll again send you a link that you can complete, and Cobus will be in touch once he's back from New Zealand. And who is our winner today? Neil Phillips. There you go. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Big congratulations. All righty. So on that note, ladies and gents, that's the end of today's show. My guests next week is Guy Holwell, and now the other person's name escapes me, but I've got 2 guests next week. So we are going to talk a little bit about more of the back of what's happening at Ascend on Tuesday. So it will be a follow-on conversation from that. So really looking forward to that. And the week after that, his book is now at my office. I'll post some stuff on LinkedIn, but Errol Meyer, I think, is the week after that. So looking forward to have Errol on the show, and it's going to be great. So thank you very much, ladies and gents. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and continue to raise the bar. I love you lots. Thank you so much.